Welcome to On The Rise. My name is Gerardo Ramos. I'll be your host today. My co-host for this evening is Armando Gonzalez and Michael Feinberg. How you guys doing today?
What's up, guys?
Doing good, doing good.
Man.
Awesome. Well, today we have a good friend of mine on. His name is Jesse Quiñones. He's a London-based writer, director, and producer, and he has a movie coming out called Cagefighter: Worlds Collide. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me, guys.
What's up, Jesse?
Good, man. So, hey, brother, man, tell me a little bit about the movie. What's it about? I know you have Jon Moxley. He's an AEW world champion, right? You have Chuck Liddell, Luke Rockhold, Gina Gershon. You got a lot of people on there, man. So what's this all about?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, the film is about a young fighter called Reese Gibbons, who's played by an actor by the name of Alex Montagnani. And he's like a five-time champ of a promotion called Legends, which we created for the movie. He's clean out the division, and, he's on the cusp of being this really big global superstar when his promoter, Max Black, played by Gina Gershon, says to him, look, I want you to take this cross-promotional fight with Randy Stone, who's this big wrestling star. And so we actually cast Jon Moxley, who's AEW champion at the moment. And at first he's kind of like, I'm not sure about it. It sounds like a gimmick. I don't want to, get into this. But then he starts realizing the crossover potential and how he could tap into a whole new fan base. And he decides to take the fight. And basically it ends up being the biggest fight of his life. And, big action-packed film. I'm not ashamed to admit we try to make, something that's exciting, rock and roll. And we wanted to deliver on big, cool fights, but with also a story with heart. And, I'm a martial artist myself, so I don't want any other martial artists clowning me and saying that the fights look like shit. So I wanted to really take time and make sure that they, the Jiu Jitsu and the striking kind of read as truthful, So I spent a year pre-visualizing the fights and shooting rehearsal footage and everything. And I'm really proud of it. It's taken me a long time to make it, so I'm very proud.
Did you go to a bunch of fights?
To watch it? You mean to rehearse?
MMA fights? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean for years. Yeah. I mean, I've got friends.
So you're an MMA fan?
Oh, big time. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years. So I'm a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and
nice.
I've got a lot of friends that are martial artists. Like our lead actor is an MMA fighter. So that was the cool part, is that I didn't have to kind of introduce him to the world. He already knew the world. And that really came into play because, the way we did it was, I felt like the way to make it believable was to have the actors go at about 75% intensity. And then we would, adjust the shutter speed and the frame rate so that it kind of looked a little quicker to get that explosive action. But even so, going 70% can still be quite intense. And so they really, having a fighter, he's used to going 100%. And so, whenever he got kind of knocks and bruises, it wasn't a big deal. Whereas maybe with an actor, they'd be like, all right, I got to go back to my trailer. So with Alex, I mean, he was a grinder. And I mean, we had to shoot 4 fights over 6 days. It was very intense, shooting from 10 in the morning till sometimes midnight, long days.
Where did you guys shoot?
Nice.
So we shot in Regina, Saskatchewan, which is a region in Canada. And we shot in November. We wrapped up there, and then we did some second unit stuff in London and also some stuff in Los Angeles. So it kind of takes place between London, Los Angeles.
Say the name of that city again.
The Regina, Saskatchewan. Regina.
It sounded like you were saying vagina.
I know, everybody says it. That's what they say. Everybody says it. They say they call it the badge. So that's
I don't want to go to that city, man.
The badge. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So because when you read it, you think Regina, but it's pronounced Regina. It's a cool place. I loved it. I mean, it's cold. When we were
I'm sure.
When we were editing, it was like minus 45 degrees Celsius. So like, I don't know Fahrenheit.
So you hear Canada and you think nothing but cold, right?
Oh, it was so cold that you say you boil water, you could throw it in the air and it just sort of disintegrates in the air.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was intense. But in a way, it's good because you're there. All you can do is work, So
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No going outside and
no, none of that.
Out, no smoke break.
Just drinking some cocoa and working.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. What I'd like to do is I'd like to show the trailer that you just put out.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Okay. All right. So just stand by 1 second.
The Legends Cage is reserved for the very best fighters on the planet, and Reese Gibbons is the best of the best. The 5-time champion has faced all challenges and cleared out his division. But his 6th title defense presents a new challenge. Wrestling champion, Randy Stone.
For a world champion, I don't think he's ever been hit by a guy like me. It's gonna be like getting hit by a truck.
Randy as an opponent, he's a clown.
Randy is the most divisive figure to ever step foot in the Legends Cage, splitting the world of MMA and professional wrestling right down the middle.
Live from London, England! Are you ready for a new legend?
All eyes will be on this fight. And one thing is for sure, the world of professional wrestling and the world of MMA will collide.
That's awesome, man.
Cool, thank you.
Take my money now because I'm definitely going to go catch that shit.
May 16th, Fight TV.
May 16th?
May 16th, Fight TV.
Wow, right around the corner.
Yeah. But it won't play in the U.S. though for that date. But later in the year, it will be available in the U.S.
I can't tell you how proud I am of you, man. This is
Thank you, man.
and it's like we kind of talked about this before. It's crazy. Like we've been apart for so long, and it's funny how we both kind of got to like MMA somehow. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. No,
That's funny. That's awesome.
I came to London and we hadn't probably seen each other for like 10 years or something. And then somehow both of our paths in different ways led to mixed martial arts, you know, and
yeah, that's awesome.
And then it kind of comes full circle. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think it's a great industry to be in, you know, and there's amazing people. I really respect the mentality, you know, and kind of you know, the things you learn from martial arts, you know, humility and self-respect and dignity. So that's the things that I wanted to kind of get across in the movie, you know.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. That's definitely a good message to come to, you know.
A lot of people sometimes have weird connotations with martial arts, and they think, oh, it's like thugs or whatever. It's, you know, lowbrow,
beating up people and fighting and all, you know, boxing, because boxing really doesn't have that tradition of like martial arts and,
absolutely,
you know, honor, respect, you know.
For sure. And with martial arts, I mean, the best experiences I've had is getting my ass kicked for 2 years as a white belt, you know, and learning about being humble. And even if, you know, I'm a big guy, and having guys half my size beat me up and having to just swallow my pride and just learn, okay, that it's okay to be the nail sometimes, you know, and learning how to kind of, you know, deal with ego. And it's definitely improved my life in work and in my personal stuff. So I think there's so many good qualities, you know, and one of the big messages with the movie is about how to deal with fear and, you know, how to face it, you know, which is what martial arts teaches you, I think.
That's awesome, man. I had another question. Back in 2007, you had another documentary called Cagefighter, and you filmed that with your brother Daniel. How did that documentary influence this movie?
That's so that's the first film I ever made. I made it when I was a student at London Metropolitan University, which is a university out here. And I was a student film, you know, and my brother and I were just like trying to learn how to make documentaries. And we followed this fighter, a guy called Dynamite Dean Bray, for the build up to a fight. He was fighting for Cage Rage. And, you know, I think we just, you know, it was a 15-minute film and was very, like at the time, my grandfather passed away while we were editing the film. And I was very close to him. And I don't know, something spiritual about that film. And, you know, just looking at this guy's journey, and he was dealing with ego and he's dealing with fear and still had to face his demons in the cage. And it just really resonated with me a lot, you know. And shortly after, I started training Jiu Jitsu myself and, you know, wanting to grow as a person and as a martial artist. And over the years, I always felt like that documentary would translate well into a feature film. I didn't take the story, like the storyline is completely different, but I just wanted to tell the story of a fighter that's dealing with things, you know, and his own internal demons. But what's interesting is I wanted to get this film made years ago. I wanted it to be made like in 2008. I was desperate to get this film made. But I think similar to like when you go from white belt to blue, purple, brown, black, I think even though the desire was there to make this movie, then I needed to grow as a person. And it was so funny. When I got my black belt, which was in November of 2018, that's when everything clicked. And all of a sudden, everything was falling into place, you know? And I started raising the finance. It's almost like I needed to kind of grow as a martial artist and be at the right level as a martial artist to be equipped to make the movie. So I think that both of those journeys for me go hand in hand.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations, man. Absolutely.
Thank
Me as a promoter, I take on almost kind of like challenging things like that in life, man. But to make a movie, man.
Well, I bet there's a lot of parallels between promotion and filmmaking, because it's like you have a product and you're trying to draw energy to it. And you know, I love the fight game. I love, you know,
it's like you have it here and you got to translate it into somehow people seeing it, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
you know, kudos,
it's the same.
Man. That's awesome.
To be honest, even the way we're pitching this May 16th is like an event, not necessarily like a movie.
Right.
We're saying this is an event, you know, and I think it's a, you know, I know it's not an easy business, but I have a lot of respect for it. And I've had a chance to talk a little bit with Scott Coker, Bellator, and you know,
nice.
It's an amazing profession. So
definitely is, man. And MMA, dude, I love MMA. I love the fight game, period.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, man. I've been looking at the reviews just for the trailer, and people are going crazy, man. That must feel good.
We got more coming too. We got a longer trailer coming and some other behind the scenes stuff. And we're just teasing it out slow, you know.
That's how you
when
do
it, man.
When are you
launching it here in the US?
It probably sometime in the fall, but we don't have an exact date just yet. But we will have. We'll have something very exciting lined up for the US.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to hand it over to Michael Feinberg. I know he has a few questions for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Jesse, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man.
Good. Doing all right. You know, I was looking at Gerardo's shirt here while I was talking. I'm really digging the Hawaiian colors.
Hey, man, it's Casual Friday.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, you know,
I think he's trying to challenge me, man.
Yeah, for real.
It's almost that we need to switch shirts, bro.
Yeah. I know, right? Well, how about we switch locations?
Where are you guys all based? In Miami or Palm Beach?
Palm Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all different towns up in Palm Beach area, so not too
cool.
far from one another.
Nice.
So Jesse, I'm going to ask you a few things. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. You know, but personally, from a personal standpoint. So coming from Miami, how was the adjustment to living in London?
It was. I mean, it was big. You know, I was 19 years old, going from, you know, like 90-degree weather, beautiful kind of tropical climate, and London, it rains a lot. Culturally, it's very different. You know, British people, the British sensibility is a little different. So that was an adjustment. But I love living in London. I've been here a long time. You know, it's a very creative city, and as a filmmaker, it's a good place to be, and it just allows me to kind of get my, you know, I think this is a good place for me in terms of my career. So
can you compare it to like Miami? Like how do you compare like London and Miami?
Well, I made my first feature film in Miami, because my first film was based on my life, and I went back. I was in London, but I went back to Miami to shoot it. Yeah, so that was it. Like it was great being back. It was really like kind of a special experience to go back home, and even, you know, I was like going to the parks I used to play baseball in and filming, you know, because it was a sports film as well. So it was great. I mean, I love Miami. I haven't been back in a while, and I still have my dad over there, so I definitely want to visit soon when all this pandemic stuff blows over. You know?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, so how's the coronavirus affecting life for you out there in London? I mean, what's it look like outside over there?
Well, we're shut down like everywhere else. I mean, we're pretty much allowed to leave once a day, and otherwise it's pretty much on lockdown. So it's crazy times, and definitely we really lucked out with the movie though, because a lot of films have been canceled as a result of this, but we finished shooting right before lockdown started. So what happened was I was meant to go to Canada again to finish the online, like the color grade and sound design. But the only change was I just did it remotely. Like even now, we're still tidying up all those little bits. But it's amazing what technology can allow you to do. And you can pretty much do anything post-production wise, you can do remotely. So that's how we've been working. And, you know, we just thought, let's use what's happening in society in a way as a positive. You know, it's an obstacle. Let's not treat it as an obstacle, but more as an opportunity. And so we wanted to really think laterally about how we could get our film out there. And that's where we started talking to Fight TV. We've already had a kind of a partnership with them anyway. And we thought Fight TV has, you know, they speak to the fans that we want to reach. You know, this is a fight movie. It's got a lot of action. And we think, you know, also with all the big MMA events being canceled, the big wrestling events being canceled, fans are starving for something to watch. And, you know, I think this is something that could fill that void right now.
So, I mean, you touch on it a little bit, but I'm just curious. So do you think the virus delayed your post-production anyway? Do you think it's going to affect your premiere, like the statistics behind the numbers, what you were looking for that premiere?
No, to be honest, it sped up the premiere. We were going to premiere it overall around the world in October. But then when this all kicked off and we just thought, you know, consulted with all the producers, my main producers, Shane Putzlocker and Sarah Shack, and we all kind of had a group chat, you know, conversation about it. We just decided now is actually the perfect time to put the film out because because all the fights are being canceled and everyone's starving for content. We just wanted to put it on a platform that could get it directly to the fans, you know?
I'm starving, man. I wanted that trailer to keep going, man.
Okay. Wait for another week. It's going to be a longer one. Yeah.
No, and I think you hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right. I think because of the lack of combat sports right now, people are drooling for something, but it's too bad. Like you said, you couldn't get it over in the U.S. to open up here next month. I mean, that would be something.
I know. I would have loved it. I can't get too detailed about why. It's business, but you know, I would have loved to. You know, I have loads of friends and family back in the U.S. and some of them have been pretty bummed. They were like really hoping to see it. And all I can say is that it definitely will be in the U.S. and we're planning something really special for when we do premiere it there. So
you'll have to come.
Oh yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Oh hell yeah, man.
Yeah. And we're trying to get some of the cast as well to come and you know and have a really special event.
We can mix it up with one of our events, man.
That would be cool, man.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Definitely be nice.
Yeah. It's always like that's the thing. There's a lot of synergy between the fight game and the film game, and I think they kind of speak the same language. So I think it's always worth having a conversation.
Man.
So let me ask you this. So as far as the movie is concerned, I mean, who did you lean on for the actual research to make sure it flows properly in the eyes of a fight fan?
So in terms of the fights, I think it was a lot of me working with our main. So what happened was our main actor wasn't initially. He was just a fight choreographer, Alex Montagnani. He stepped in to be the main actor like a month out because we had another actor that was on board. And what happened was they couldn't make it out to Canada just for, you know, visa issues and stuff and just timing of schedule. And so Alex stepped in about a month out because I was in this really tricky situation where I needed to cast the role and I needed to find somebody that could do you know, there's 4 fights. So there's a lot of choreography to learn and also that could pull off the emotional depth of the role. And it was just a no-brainer. He was the guy. He knew the fight choreography inside out because he designed it. And secondly, you know, he's a really natural presence on screen. So me and him kind of worked a lot. We spent about a year like devising the fights. Anybody that's a hardcore MMA fan, so I'm assuming you guys will pick up on it. I did try to put a lot of little Easter eggs in the film. A lot of the sequences in the fights are inspired by real things. So it'd be interesting. Pretty much every fight has little surprises in there, and a hardcore fan would recognize them. Because I just thought that'd be kind of an exciting experience to say, that's the kick from like when Anderson was fighting James Irvin. I got a really bad memory, but most things. But for some reason, I can recall moves like quite well. So I would use them as sort of reference points. So me and Alex worked on it a lot, and then during the shoot. I didn't want him to worry too much about the choreography, so we had a stunt coordinator called Daniel Ford Beavis, who's worked on loads of films, it was great working with him because I'm more of a, my experience is more with ground fighting, jiu-jitsu. So I can kind of pick up on things that might not look right there. And he was focusing on the striking. And so between the two of us, we kind of, pulled it off, I think. But yeah, I think definitely if I didn't have any martial arts experience, it would have been really tricky because one of the big challenges was Alex actually got injured during the shoot. And then we had to rejig a couple of the fights like really quickly. And that, I had to draw on every ounce of experience I could because that was a scary scenario.
It's great. I'm glad you mentioned it like that too, and you've done the research behind it because it's always so important. There's some great movies out there that have had the biggest budgets in the world and have actually won awards. Like for instance, and I'll throw them under the bus, $1 Million Baby. I think that movie's complete garbage. And the only reason I say that, and Gerardo's laughing, but the only reason I say that is because if you're a fight fan and you understand how the business works and how it's supposed to go, there's so many mistakes they made in that movie from the beginning to the end. I mean, you first start out with that movie where the girl is an amateur just starting to learn how to fight, never even punched a bag before, but somehow she's on the biggest pay-per-view Vegas card that they made that year. And then finally, at the end of that movie, she ends up in the hospital, right? We all know how the movie goes. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, well, I don't see her belt anywhere. And I got people ask, what do you mean her belt? I said, well, you remember the other girl got disqualified for hitting after the bell, right?
Yeah, so she broke her neck, right? Like she kind of fell on the
So she got disqualified. That means that our girl here now is the world champion. So where's the belt? That really could have been a part of the whole story. And I said, technically, it didn't seem like they really did the research behind it. And the people looking for those behind the scenes kinds of things didn't see it. So I'm glad you put some research into it.
Yeah, no, I tried, man. And I really, when I put it together, I really made it with that in mind, that I wanted to make sure fight fans looked at it and believed it, and even when we were shooting, sometimes if I wasn't sure about a moment, the amazing thing is I had Chuck Liddell and Luke Rockhold right there, and they definitely, and so there was a few moments where Luke Rockhold would say, a fighter wouldn't say that, he just wouldn't say that, or a coach wouldn't say that. I had a line I remember I wanted Chuck to say, and Chuck said, man, a coach would never say that. And I just said, all right, I trust you, so, having two legends like that was really helpful because I've always admired the sport from the outside. I train, but I've never stepped in the cage, so I don't know it intimately like that. And I have too much respect for fighters to pretend that I would, Right. So having those guys, and also having Alex, who's, he's had about 12 fights or something like that. There's something to be said about someone that has actually stepped in the cage. And so when I didn't know something, I'd lean on them. They were the experts. And so I was kind of spoiled in a way. And on the flip side, having Moxley there, I have a newfound respect for wrestling in the sense of just about being able to tell stories with their bodies, the physicality and being able to kind of create a narrative with choreography. I mean, this guy, it's kind of genius the way he works. He knows how to build out a narrative just through the fight. And so I learned a lot. I definitely want to make more action films. That's for sure.
But that's great. I mean,
so there'll be a number 2 sequel.
Oh yeah. I don't want to get too excited, but if this does well, I got big plans, man.
Yeah, great though. Great having those people behind you. I mean, just for the fans to have that immersion and really be able to get into the movie itself, like they're in a fight, like they're watching a fight, like you said, and to not have to pause and say, "Well, that didn't make sense." It's well,
even like a film like Warrior, which is like it's an amazing film. There's things I saw there, like especially the grappling stuff. Like, and I look at it, and I remember there's one sequence where he's mounted, and then he transitions to an armbar, and he leaves like that much space, and I'm like, that wouldn't happen, like in a professional. And so I just really try to make sure that everything, when you look at it, it's like it would happen in a real fight. And if it didn't, I would say, let's do it again. And I was probably a pain in the ass on set, but I really wanted to make sure it all looked believable. And I wanted to keep it kind of present as well. And keep, there's new things that are happening in MMA right now, and I wanted to kind of, incorporate some of the new moves so it felt very present tense.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot for that information. I'm going to send you over to Armando because I know we're running short on time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So you mentioned some of the scenes, some of the Easter eggs that you have in there are based on real moves that, the UFC, you see guys, Did you happen to get that Demetrius Johnson move in there, that flying arm bar?
Oh, no, I didn't.
That was a badass
maybe
move
that's
right
for the
there, man.
sequel.
I think
Maybe
that's the best move ever.
I know. We had all 200 pounders like plus. So it would have been hard, but I love that. That was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was one of the greatest moves I've ever seen on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How was it like working with like Chuck Liddell and Luke Rockhold and all those guys, man?
It was amazing. I mean, Chuck, you know, I'm a massive fan of both of them. And with Chuck, I mean,
being a fan, and now you have him working with you on a film, you know?
Yeah, I know, it was crazy. And Chuck he's a really cool guy. Really low key, you know, Iceman comes for a reason. I mean, he's super chilled out. I've never seen somebody that had like more fans just trying to get at him when we were shooting. I mean, where we would just be trying to chilling out at a restaurant or whatever, you know, and he's so chill, so gracious, really nice guy. And then Luke, really cool. I mean, it's funny because he was in town, he wanted to get some training in. So of course I'm going to ask him, hey, let's spar, man. Let's roll. And, you know, he definitely whooped my ass good. I was oh yeah, I was because I was, to be honest, I had it coming. I kept pestering. I was like, hey Luke, come on, let's roll, man. He's like, just chill, man. He probably think I'm like some weird director trying to like, what's this guy about? But come on, it's like it's for somebody that like, you know, is into golf and wanted to do some holes with Tiger Woods or another sport, like hit some, you know, balls with right. Woods. I wanted to roll with Luke Rockhold. Man, he fucked me up, and then like you know, my hamstring, and then Chuck was making fun of me for getting beat up, and it was a bonding thing. I think at least they respected me a little bit because of it, you know.
Well, I think, man, you chose some great guys, you know, to be on the film. I mean, especially Chuck Liddell, man. He's like the pioneer of the sport. I mean, everybody looks at MMA, thinks Chuck Liddell, and you know, I mean, that was a smart. Absolutely, 100%. That was definitely a smart move. You know, and one of the questions that I had, I mean, which Mike asked you again earlier, how was the transition from Miami to London, man? How is that? I mean, is it colder over there? Obviously, I mean,
I mean, I got used to it. The first few years was a bit tricky because it was just culturally, you know, like it was, and also it was a really, I used to play baseball and I was really diehard serious. Gary, you know, you remember like being diehard, and I was trying to go pro, and I was obsessed with baseball. And then when I had a scholarship to University of Miami. That was a really big deal. And then I got injured. I tore the ligament in my elbow, and then it kind of just all fell apart. And then I did about a semester at Broward Community College, but that didn't quite work out. And at some point I just thought this baseball dream is just not going to happen. So when I came to London, it was kind of on a sour note. I was down, you know, I didn't feel like a failure, but I was like, I had that dream I always wanted to achieve, and it didn't happen. And so I came out here, and it was almost a way to reinvent myself. You know, that's when I got into writing. I used to be really into poetry and just creative expression. And it's been a long journey to get to film, because it started off with poetry, and then I worked as a journalist for a little bit. Then I was making documentaries and just growing as an artist, and eventually landing in film, which is kind of what I always wanted to do from the beginning. I just didn't, you know, I think film's a real craft. It's a real craft-driven type thing. It's sort of thing where you have to learn it by doing it, and you get better every time you do it, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
How's the MMA scene up there, man?
What's that?
I just want to say something.
The MMA scene up in
I just want to say, hey, you're achieving, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, thank you, man.
You're achieving and you're thriving in what you're doing. And like I said before, I'm proud of you, man. Sorry, Armando. Go ahead, brother. Yeah, man.
Sorry, man. I was just saying, how's the MMA scene up in London? Is it pretty badass?
I mean, it's growing for sure. You know, all the big events come out here, UFC, Bellator. We also have some good local promotions, Contenders MMA. I'm really good friends with those guys. Cage Warriors. There was Bama, but it's no more. But yeah, there's the MMA scene here is big. You know, it's a smaller city, obviously, so everyone meets everyone really quick. But it's We got fighters out here. Brad Pickett, who used to fight for the UFC. He's really connected in the MMA scene.
I met him a few times down at American Top Team.
Okay, so he's got a cameo in this as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. So yeah, it's a great scene, and all the different disciplines have been grown over the years. I mean, when I started training, I think there was like maybe 5 or 6 black belts in the country, in London or in England, and now there's like hundreds. And back
definitely
then,
the MMA, Jiu Jitsu, the fighting scene.
Yeah, they got Polaris. They've got some great grappling events. So yeah, it's growing. And the level is growing, and it's a good time, I think, to be in the MMA scene here and just in Europe in general.
That's awesome, man.
Great time for that movie, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, so we're running short on time, Jesse, man. But I do want you to give you an opportunity to go ahead and let everybody know again when the movie's going to come out, how they could find it, and how they could find you on social media. Yeah,
so the movie Cagefighter Worlds Collide, it comes out May 16th at 7 p.m. on Fight TV. And the easiest way to find us is on social media. Facebook, it's Cagefighter at Cagefighter Movie. Twitter is at Cagefighter MOV. So like short for movie. And then on Instagram is at Cagefighter Movie. And we post all of the updates and where we can watch, you guys can watch the movie and trailers and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Great. Once again, thank you for taking the time to come on the show and talk about the movie. We really appreciate it, man.
Pleasure,
and
man.
Thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Yeah. Thank you for the support, guys.
Man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys, man, and looking forward to checking out that movie, man. Definitely going to be paying attention, man, for the release.
All right. So for On The Rise, and Armando and Michael, I'm Gerardo. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.